The Midnight Adventure on the Forbidden Island. Greetings, whoever you are. Our story begins as any other story, with a location and with the characters that grace the said story. Let us start with the location first. The name shall remain a secret, for I would not want for anyone to try to find it. It has been years now, and the shock of what happened in that place frightens me even today. It frightens me a lot, for the story that I am about to write, here, on this paper, stands as something fantastical, and some would argue that it stands as nothing but a product of a deranged mind. I am not deranged, I swear on my life. What I am about to write is the truth, and I would swear on it even if someone were to torture me in order to make me deny it. The location itself stood as an island, off the coast of a grand medieval-looking town of tall ancient walls that became the main attraction of the connecting modern town, the famous tourist destination, especially when the days would grow longer and temperature increased. For that was when the masses of foreign people arrived and plagued those people that wanted nothing to do with them, but had to tolerate them for the sake of money that they would bring. The town was beautiful in its own way. It was my hometown, and even I considered it extremely beautiful up until that night when my two friends and I boarded a long type of kayak, which could indeed fit 3 people, and ventured into the darkness towards the island that stood a fair distance away from the said town, a beautiful island of majestic green nature. We, my friends and I, used the cover of the night, and indeed we kept our flashlights off so not to alert the Coast Guard or anyone else that might cast a glance at the calm, dark horizon. The usual docking place on the island would be a big ancient-looking pier. The access to it would be via a big wooden boat that had both medieval and modern designs blended together, and the tourists loved the said design, for it stood packed almost every day when the tourist season was in a full swing. We, the adventuring kids, did not use the majestic pier because it was indeed connected with a stone path that ended with a stone house that housed a security guard, and many said that it was not wise to mess with him because he usually would hit first and ask questions later, even kids, especially kids. He was just one of the scary prospects of this adventure, and it was imperative to avoid him, and thus we went around the island, and through the open kind of sea, no less, just to reach the certain side of the island that during the day acted as a nudist beach. The whole thought made my stomach turn, because I personally could never relax among the openly dangling sausages and clams while sunbathing, but luckily it was nighttime, and it was nighttime at the moment, and the said beach stood most definitely empty. The sea was dark and calm, and the island itself was creepily approaching in the distance, as if though it were some kind of dark leviathan, ready to swallow us whole. It stood nothing like a radiant garden, which it was during the day, and it was indeed prohibited to go there during the night time, but we just had to get there and defy the rules at all costs. We were the troublemakers of our little group, 2 of us at least. The third friend always tagged along, and always wanted to show bravery, but unfortunately he never could, and he never did. The island stood as a nature reserve park, that was the official story, and thus it was protected, and no one could set foot on it during the night. Many even called it a sunset abyss, because many joked that the island would swallow all those who would venture into the darkness of the forest as the sun would slowly set on the horizon, and many imagined the actual race against time and nature as the last rays of the sun disappeared and great dark descended upon its victim or victims. Some people even joked that the lone guard of the island had to be big, strong and mean in order to fight the monstrosities that appeared on that indeed magical island on nightly basis, defending us common folk, so that we could continue living a blissful existence away from the dangers that emerged in the night and wished to feast upon us here in this town. There stood a lot of mystery when it came to that island, and the air indeed stood thick with it, very thick indeed. I was personally never a believer, for it all stood as nothing but nonsense to me, while some people strongly believed and were unshakable in that belief. If one were to get there, to the island, in a normal kind of way, he or she had to follow the stone path which led into the forested area that housed a restaurant of sorts where people would usually sit, eat ice cream, eat sandwiches, and drink cold drinks. To tell you the truth, all of it was overpriced, but not for the tourists, who usually came for money, and thus they even called this place cheap, according to their standards of living at least. That place is not somewhere where I would usually hang around. My fascination stood with the fort at the top of the hill, and climbing the so-called Highway to Heaven road stood as both fun and a challenge, because it stood very steep, and challenges were something that I did, and this whole endeavor was just that, a challenge, a stupid challenge that I cannot stop regretting. Oh, I just realized that I failed to introduce myself. I'm Marya, and I was always a tomboy. I had that kind of energy and fortitude when it came to certain stressful situations, but in everything else, as my dear friend would constantly remind me, I was a girl, prone to fits that any other girl would have, for there was no escaping my nature. My outfit usually consisted of jeans-type pants, sneakers type of running shoes, and a skin-tight t-shirt. Even during the day, when it was hot, I would wear something that covered most of my skin, because I would get cold easily, and even when I was visiting the sauna, it would take me double the amount of normal time to develop any kind of sweat. I always wore my hair short, and many a times people had mistaken me for a guy, which was annoying to say the least, for I did not lack attributes, but the way I dressed always concealed them tightly. But enough about me. My friends were regular-looking guys. One of my friends was strong-looking, and his style of dressing was similar to mine, but at this time he wore a short type of pants that exposed his muscular legs and a loose-fitted t-shirt, because he was always feeling hot, and now, paddling, even during the night-time, made him produce a big kind of sweat. His name was Nathaniel, and indeed, he was a fighter that never feared his opponents, that always stood larger, that never feared his opponents, that almost always stood larger than him. The other one was Skinny. He started to gain some mass recently. He was not too tall, but shorter than me and Nathaniel, and his frightened demeanor was in most cases annoying, and it was he who would not stop yapping and pointing out that this whole endeavor of ours was a bad idea, and thus he, Tomahan, would repeatedly and annoyingly say, "What is the point to all of this? This is foolish. This is what foolish people do." Nathaniel responded, "Who is a bigger fool? A fool or he who follows a fool? And hey, nobody forced you to come along. This is an adventure. Live a little, my friend." "I'm afraid of how deep this water is, and I do not like this, not one little bit. Can you not see the dark abyss that stands below us?" Tomahan responded. Then Marya said, "Oh, toughen up. It is time for you to become a man and to stop being a frightened boy. This trip will do you good, and besides, you asked for it." Tomahan responded, "All it has done so far is make me wet, just like you and him. My shoes are ruined. Look at them. And these were brand new. My mom is going to kill me." "You are not going to melt, and a little bit of seawater will not destroy your shoes, and your mom will not find out. How about you paddle a little bit? You could use some exercise." That is what Marya said. Tomahan replied, "I'm fine, thank you very much, and paddling is not really my thing." Marya then responded, "It will give you good and strong arms. Girls love good and strong arms, believe me. Be quiet, you two. The night is carrying sounds far and wide. Keep up the yapping and we'll be discovered, Ethaniel said. Sorry, I was just trying to make a man out of him, Marya said. I'm a man, Tomahan said. No, you're not. You're just like the hens that we left behind on the shore, Ethaniel said. Marya then mockingly said, Yep, buck, buck, and buck. Tomahan said, You two are mean and bullies right now. Sticks and stones may break my bones, but words will never truly hurt me, because words are not physical. Grow some mental fortitude and stop being such a pussy, Ethaniel said. Marya interjected. Exactly, the hens that we left behind are the real bullies, and I cannot believe what you allow them to do to you on a daily basis. Yes, our other two friends, which were typical mean girls and scared chickens, stayed behind on the shore, and they promised to wait for us. I never liked them, but for the sake of peace, I tolerated them. It was an endeavor, but I managed it somehow. Besides, there simply was not enough room to take them as well, and to tell you the truth, we would have never reached the island like that, because then we would have been too heavy, and I'm sure they would have put us in great danger, because what happened next was not something that any of us expected, for creatures like that did not reside in these waters, or if they did, it was rare to actually see them. At that terrible moment, there was a fin next to us. Not a large one, but big enough to cause fright and reconsideration of the entire endeavor. It was too straight to be that of a dolphin, and indeed it was that of a shark, who stood half the size of our kayak. Maybe. It was dark, and we could not see the creature at all that clearly. Tomahan started hyperventilating, and at one point we had to hold him so that he would not jump into the water. The creature circled us a few times, and at one point it even touched the sturdy plastic kayak, and we realized that if the creature wanted to destroy it, it could have easily accomplished that. Luckily, it did not, for it probably realized that it was not something that would satisfy its hunger, and thus it swam away, far away, much to our collective relief. And at that time, even I wanted to turn back, but we were more than halfway there, and turning back now was not an option. I wish that we had turned back. I wish that the shark was the scariest part of the story, but it was not. It stood as just an introduction to a nightmare that haunts me even to this day. It did not take us too long to reach the island, and we even considered landing at the Grand Cave, which was a stunning and indeed natural sea cave located on the southeastern tip of the island. It stood known for its brilliant and clear turquoise water, which was completely black now in the nighttime, and the cave itself was a popular spot for snorkeling, swimming, and cliff jumping. Oh, there were some awesome jumps from that great vertical cliff that connected itself to the very entrance of the cave that now stood rather dark and scary, like a mouth of some dangerous grand beast. That location was indeed frequently visited via guided kayaking tours, and they would enjoy the beauty of the surrounding rocks, and we did too, but it was indeed dangerous to climb them right now, because they stood indeed high. And besides, the kayak that we used was the kayak that those very same tourists used, and some would say that we stole it, but no, we borrowed it without asking for permission, for we would return it for sure, but just not now. We climbed the low cliffs and the rocky nudist beach, and indeed it stood empty of people, and empty of the light beam that the guard would cast with his trusty and powerful flashlight that he even used as a weapon, for he had badly hurt one unfortunate trespasser in the past, and the event even made the newspaper headlines, and he was praised for it. The climb was indeed easy. We managed to tie the kayak to the cliff. The sea was indeed very calm, and there was no danger that the waves would break it against the rocks. The south wind here would usually create very big waves. Going into the open sea during those weather conditions was a straight-up suicide, and many had lost their lives because they idiotically decided to swim very close to the cliffs, and thus they, the sharp cliffs, claimed their lives. At the moment, we were safe from that kind of danger, and thus we entered the forested area, and we thought about visiting the salt water lake that was created because of the collapse of a large limestone cavern. It was located on the island's southern side, and thus the depression filled with seawater through underground fractures that were connected to the open sea, and they created a calm, high salinity pool that became very popular with the tourists. We indeed wanted to go there, but we got ourselves a bit lost, and we had to make sure that we avoided the spider webs, which stood in abundance during the night time, and some of the spiders there stood indeed huge for my standards, while Nathaniel just laughed and said that they indeed stood tiny to him. Some of the spiders even resided within the holes of the trees, and I dared not touch any of those trees, for spiders were not my cup of tea, while Nathaniel knew quite a lot about them, and was not afraid of them. Hey, I was not afraid of them, I just did not like the way they looked. Anyway, moving forward, we indeed got lost. We still refused to turn our flashlights on, and we relied on our eyes adjusting to the darkness, and just about enough so that we could see barely enough, but clearly enough, if that even made sense. The night was calm. The hooting of the owls was audible, and indeed we lost our way. And at that moment we finally realized that we did not really have any kind of plan about what we were going to do after reaching the island, and especially in case that we got lost in the darkness. For the saltwater lake idea only popped into our mind just a moment ago, and we could not find it for the life of us. The entire endeavor turned into aimless wandering, and that wandering seemed to be costing us dearly, for we had no idea where on the island we actually were. This was a whole new experience, especially in pitch darkness that stood illuminated by the weak rays of the moonlight that mostly stood obscured by the gentle clouds. And that alone should have told us that something was wrong, but we did not think about that in that particular moment. We were such an idiots. Tomahan got jittery more than he usually would be, and it was in that moment of silence, among the sounds of the night, that he could hold his tongue no longer, and thus he meekly said, People, you do realize that the island is cursed. The curse is real, very real." Marya replied, "Oh, come on, that is just a bedtime story." "Is it just a bedtime story, Nathaniel?" Nathaniel said, "Yes, it is just a bedtime story. I refuse to believe that some monks cursed the island because they were banished from negotiating renovation of their monastery with a shipwrecked foreign king who shared their religious beliefs after nursing him to health, because the nobles here refused to fund the renovation of their home." Tomahan replied, "No, it is no bedtime story. It is true. There are people who lost their lives after disrespecting the island, and those who dared to take anything from the island were stricken from this world by the curse. The monarch whose death started a great war owned land here, and after several more deaths, nobles completely abandoned their properties here. They burned every single deed that tied them to this island, and no, the monks were banished because they refused to hand over a good king, a crusader for good, to the forces of evil, and..." Nathaniel interjected, "Yeah, right. Those are nothing but coincidences, nothing more indeed, and a nice story of fantasy. Keep on walking. On second thought, we need to be heading back. I think that we had tested our luck for long enough." Marya then said, "I actually agree. We have completed the challenge, and I think that one picture, one selfie, was in order." Tomahan then said, "Are you crazy? The guard will see the flash and beat the living shit out of us. I, for one, do not want to have my body broken in any way. Nathaniel said, I would love to see him try. Marya then said, Hey, it does not matter if he sees it. We have a fighter with us, and besides, we were going to use the flashlight upon going back anyway. Nathaniel then said, Yeah, we completed our quest, so to speak. Now it is time to make a more permanent memory of it. One selfie coming right up. Marya then said, Yeah, gather up, people. Here we go. And so we did. We made a selfie picture with a flash, and I have that picture even today, in a physical form too, not just digital. I never parted with it. I treasure it, and it means more to me than any other picture in the world. I wish that the story ended there. I wish that the guard had seen our flash and chased us off the island, but unfortunately that was not the case. The guard failed to spot us, for he was probably taking a nap, and he did not have a dog or something else with him, because this island housed a population of non-flying colorful birds, and nobody wanted to risk a dog or a cat tearing them apart. We were about to leave when Nathaniel gazed into the distance, and thus he incredulously and silently said, What is that? Hey people, what is that? Tomahan then said, What is that? Really, what in the name of God is that? Nathaniel said then, Let us take a closer look, shall we? Tomahan said, No way, that has got to be a trick, a hologram of some kind. It has got to be a trick. Marya then said, Trick or no trick, I'm freaking out right now. Nathaniel said, No need freaking out. It is a candle, a levitating candle of see-through and ghostly kind. I'm honestly impressed, and I might just start believing in the whole curse story of this island. Tomahan then said, Do not joke around. This cannot be real. Nathaniel then said, You do not hear me laughing, and you do not see a projector anywhere near. You should be the one believing, because you always talk about supernatural forces, and now, when you see it, you do not want to believe it. Do not be a hypocrite. Marya said, Exactly. What do we do now? Nathaniel replied, Take a picture. This is huge. It needs to be documented, and we need to show this to others. And I did. I have that picture too. I still cannot believe that we had found something like that, but we did. That was so weird, and the candle was indeed floating in the air, and it stood, I swear on my life, see-through and glowing with an unnatural glow. This was not the kind of beautiful light that a firefly would produce. It was a weak and pale glow of something that should not have really existed. In that moment of wonder and awe, I realized that the reason we were lost was not because we did not know our way around the island, but because everything around us stood different, distorted, and the birds that stood vibrant, full of color and full of life during the day stood disfigured and demonic. Lucky for us, they were not aggressive, but the sound that they produced was meek and low in tone, and it stood as something that the sound that they produced was meek and low in tone, and it stood as something that a soon-to-be-dead corpse would produce. Disgusted, we wanted to run for it. And again, I wish that we did. Disgusted, we wanted to run for it. And again, I wish that we did just that. But we did not. We stupidly did not. God, we did not. And in that moment, we saw a normal-looking light in a distance. An actual figure holding a normal candle was approaching, and we had to quickly hide in order to avoid discovery. It was scary, to say the least, and the hooded person, a dark hooded person, approached the spectral-looking levitating candle. It seemed that he or she said a silent prayer next to the said spectral-looking levitating candle, and suddenly, in that very moment, it had turned upside down and continued burning as if though nothing had happened, and the flame continued burning brighter, straight in appearance and undisturbed, as if though gravity or laws of nature did not exist at all. The hooded figure seemed to be happy, and thus the figure left the scene. We decided to follow, even though Tomahan urged us to leave. God, I wish that we had listened. I wish that we were smarter in that moment, but we were not. We followed the hooded figure, for we were just stupid 16-year-old kids who had no idea what we were getting ourselves into. We followed, indeed we followed, and the path became clear, and it led to a grand well. In fact, a water reservoir that stood centuries old and oval in shape, and indeed it was built during the reign of some ancient monarch. I forgot the name. It was big. It was used to collect rainwater and to irrigate exotic gardens. Many believed that the owners and their guests used it to bathe, for even though many called it a well, it actually stood as a glorified pool. The well, the pool, which always stood as just that, a dry, flat rock, was indeed very much different now. It was ominous, distorted, and approaching it felt like a bad dream. It seemed as if though both the monastery and the botanical garden that stood a bit farther away had merged with this location, making it a place that radiated with strange energy, and it felt as if though evil was housed there. The stones around us were decorated with the misshapen crosses that were not completely cracked, but distorted and grotesque in their nature, as if though the rock had become jellified in some strange way. We gazed as the hooded figure descended the spiral-looking stone steps that led deep into the ground, and the three of us just stood shocked and indeed contemplating the idea to just turn back and indeed never come back. Again, I wish that we did. I wish we did turn back, but we did not. We were stupid kids, stupid thrill-seekers, stupid thrill-seeking delinquents who just had to see this through. Tomahan stayed behind, while brave Ethaniel and I went down into the darkness. Indeed, we boldly proceeded to descend downwards, towards doom, towards evil, towards the unknown. Candles of black wax shined the way, and we minded our step. We were careful not to be heard, and down we went, deeper and deeper, and the hole seemed to be never-ending, until it was not. We had reached the bottom, and we applied a non-verbal communication amongst us, upon realizing what we had stumbled upon, for we froze for a second, and we prayed to God that they do not spot us, and lucky for us, they did not, for their heads were bowed down, and in a prayer of sorts, and that gave us enough time to hide and stay out of their sight. Then one of them stepped forward. He bowed at the object of their worship, and thus, in a booming voice, he said, "Brothers, sisters, mothers, fathers, grandfathers, and grandmothers, everyone, I salute you. I, Strazicic, salute you." They all replied, "We salute you back, and we give thanks to our great master, for his great word, his great promise has been honored, and we stand here humble in gratitude and forever in his service. May his promise live forever, and may the abundance of his promise be forever present in our daily lives, in our daily deaths." Strazicic then said, "Yes, we have gathered here today on this holy day when he arrived, our blessed king. Praised be our blessed king." They all replied, "Praised be our blessed king, for his glory is forever. We shall never surrender him to the false god. His body will forever be protected by us. We may have been exiled, but we are still here. We will forever be here, in the darkness of the night. We are the darkness." Strazicic then said, "I am the darkness, and I'm here to give honor to our blessed king. My life tonight is his, for it is my turn to give sacrifice as he had given his own to us. Midnight is almost upon us. My family, come closer and assist me in what I need to do, so that he may give us that what we seek. We honor the ancestors who made this silent ours once again, and we honor their sacrifice. The night is ours, and the candles of magic that were sacrificed on that dark night still shine, and we will never let anyone extinguish them. Their spectral nature is still there. No one will ever see them, and no one will ever touch them. They are our life, and they are our power. Now, my family, proceed and make me one with my blessed king, our blessed king of benevolent greatness." They said, "We honor your sacrifice, and we will never forget you. The world will forget you, but we never will. We never will. We love you, now and forever." Ethaniel and I could not believe what we were seeing. It was horrible. They produced intricate curved knives that had monstrous serpentine-like features. They were cutting him, they were mutilating him, and he just smiled as they did it. I almost vomited, and it was in that moment that we realized that we had to leave. We did not belong there, and what we were seeing was wrong, indeed very wrong. We realized that the legend was real. The whole story was unfortunately wrong, very wrong, and there had been no benevolent king returning from a holy campaign, who the hooded monks rescued from a shipwreck and then were banished from the island because they refused to hand him over to the forces of evil, as some people said, and for sure they were not banished because they had the audacity to negotiate with a foreign king and thus receive funds from him. The king they rescued was an exiled malevolent king and a powerful sorcerer at that, who promised them great power if they were to hide his body and not allow it to fall into the hands of his mortal enemies. The murals around us told us the whole story, and it was sickening. The monks indeed obliged his request, and it was his body that they worshipped now, and it was his machinations that plagued the island, and the deaths associated with it were no coincidences, were no accidents. This island became his home, and no one could own his home, not even royalty. He showed the monks how to cast a curse upon the island. Upside-down candles had a great part in it, and he showed them how to maintain the said curse, and his grip on the island tightened as the centuries passed, and the underground temple became the meeting place of the descendants who continued worshipping him while faking the religion that this region was famous for. It was clear now why not a single bomb managed to hit the island during the war that plagued this region so many years ago, and indeed it was not a myth but a reality, which was enabled through dark and evil magic. The malevolent king now stood as a disfigured corpse, never to rise again. Maybe, just maybe, and it stood decorated with a grotesque crown made out of human bones. The king had his kingdom, he had his subjects, and it seemed that his kingdom was the night, and this night held a special meaning, for it indeed marked an anniversary of his arrival. The worshippers decorated the king's corpse with the body parts of their dismembered, old-looking member, and it seemed that to be chosen like this stood an honor for them, a sick honor, and just as we were about to take flight, I took a picture, and I forgot to turn off the flash. Damn, it was so I was so stupid. And in that brief moment of silence, they acknowledged that we were intruders, infidels, and that we deserved death for intruding upon their sacred ritual, and thus they rushed at us like a furious army of fanatical demons, as if though they were defending their home, the hell itself. Luckily, Ethaniel was quick enough to use a powerful sidekick strike at one of the attacking hooded figures, and it created a domino kind of an effect among the hooded ones as they fell to the ground, and thus some of their identities were revealed, and indeed they stood familiar to me. I wanted to stay and help Ethaniel. God, I wished that I stayed and helped, but I was just too scared in that moment, and I listened to him as he screamed at me to get the hell out of there, while he held them back. He was so confident, and that was something I admired about him. I listened to him. I wish that I had not, and I rushed outside, where confused Tomahana waited. He heard the commotion, he heard the words echoing from the hole, and he even considered entering, for he took a few steps down, but he did not go any further, and together We fled towards the direction of the kayak. Our frantic run unfortunately stood short-lived because we bumped into a person, and that person was huge in stature, and a slap across our faces from that person stopped us in our tracks. He yelled at us. His words got lost in all of that confusion, and it was Tomahan that frantically exclaimed, "Who are you? Who are you? What are you? Stop hurting us!" The guard said, "Kid, I'm the guard. I will beat the living shit out of you two numbskulls." Tomahan then said, "No, wait, somebody is chasing us." The guard replied, "Chasing you? Nonsense. What are you kids really doing here? Empty your pockets. Let me see what you were using to hallucinate such idiotic things. Someone chasing you. There is no one here. There is no one here." Marya said, "There were hooded figures chasing us. You got to believe us. There were candles and a corpse and..." Guard then said, "There is no one at the well area. You kids imagined it. Now I will let you go with the warning, but never return here during the nighttime. Do I make myself clear? Next time the beating will not stop." Marya said, "Wait, how do you know that we were at the well area?" Guard said, "You do not know what you're talking about, kid. Get a move on. Now, you hear?" Marya then replied, "No, you're one of them. You knew. You know. You monster. You monsters. All of you." Tomahan shouted, "We need to get away from him." Marya said, "Run, run now." Guard said, "Run, and do not come back. For your own sakes and for the sakes of your families, never come back." We ran, and the frantic footsteps were close behind us. I glanced only once in hopes that it would be Ethaniel, the brave Ethaniel, with the news that he defeated the hooded ones as if he were some kind of fantastical hero from a movie or a video game, but it was not him. The reality stood much darker, and the hooded figures chased after us, and during the chase we came in contact with the spectral upside-down candle, and the said candle shattered because of the impact. The shattering seemed to be visibly hurting the hooded ones, and that moment of their discomfort was enough for us to run even faster and reach the kayak, and thus quickly paddle away. They gazed at us from the rocky shore, and their anger was palpable. They held knives in their hands, and Nathaniel was nowhere to be seen. He was probably their prisoner, or worse. I paddled like crazy. The return trip seemed much shorter, and upon reaching the sandy shore, I found two of our female friends talking to two police officers. They blabbed out that we went to the island, probably, and I was fine with that, for I needed to speak with the police officers as soon as possible, for they had to go to that island and rescue Nathaniel, who I strongly believed was still alive. I did not wait for them to talk to me. I threw away the paddle, I rushed towards them, and I loudly exclaimed, "We need to go back and help him. He is holding them off, but even he cannot fight them all. Please, we need to go back for him. He is on the island. They're going to kill him." One of the female friends said, "Whom are you going to kill? Whom are they going to kill? What is wrong? You are scaring us. Shut up. Just shut up." Marya said, "Nathaniel, he is still there. Officers, we need to go there and get him before they hurt him." Police officer said, "Whom are you talking about? Who is eat them all?" "Wait, who did it eat then? What in the name of God are you talking about?" Marya said, "Nathaniel, you know him. You know him. He is a fighter. He is... The second female friend said, "What are you talking about? Who is this Ethan or whoever?" "You are not making any sense." Marya said, "Stop messing with me. Here, look at the picture. You see three of us taking a selfie picture, and this is where he is. Look, just look." Police officer said, "All I see are two troublemakers in that picture, and the other two pictures are blurry and unrecognizable." Second police officer said, "Indeed, two of you went to the island, and two of you came back. We know about your endeavor. These two told us everything. You have good friends who worry about you." Marya then said, "No, there were three of us. There were 3 of us. You two, how could you betray us like this? I'm going to kill you. You're no friends of mine." Police officer said, "Oh, you're in big trouble now. These threats were uncalled for. The rules are clear, and the island is indeed off limits during the night. Now you will be taken to the police station, and your parents will be held fully responsible for your committed crime, and they will pay the price. This will stop further troublemakers from breaking the rules. I'm sorry, but you must be made an example of, and indeed you brought this upon yourself." Indeed, there was no use talking to them. Tomahan and I were taken to the police station, and we were questioned and ultimately dismissed as idiotic kids that consumed too much of whatever the kids were into back in those days. I was never into any of that, and only once did someone slip something into my drink, but luckily nothing happened to me, and I was fine, just fine, bruised after crashing a bike, but I survived. Luckily I survived, and whoever did that to me failed to rob me of my existence. Tomahan's parents and my adoptive parents were equally dismissive, and thus we received further punishment from them as well. They simply would not listen. They simply ignored our claims, and in a strict voice, they just told us to grow up and to stop making their already complicated and busy lives that much more difficult. That was the kind of betrayal that I could never forgive, and I have not spoken with them in a long while. I just could never bring myself to trust them again, and much less forgive them for dismissing me without properly hearing me out. I swore to always listen, to give a small benefit of the doubt to any outlandish claim, and to actually investigate the claims made. I always stayed true to myself, and I have never betrayed myself in that regard. Days passed, and the situation remained the same, and the parents of our lost friend Ethaniel carried on with their life as if though their boy never existed, and they even announced to their friends that they were considering parenthood, and that they would name their child Ethan. The notion was like a punch to the gut, and it was clear to me that the ones who did this did not just erase him, but in a strange kind of way they were trying to replace him, for I found them lurking around his parents and encouraging the said parenthood in a creepy kind of way. Very soon my 2 female friends, Hanisia and Angelia, became my ex-friends, and I never felt one bit sorry about that. They just could not see the 3 people on the selfie picture. They also could not see the levitating candle picture, nor could they see the gruesome temple picture. No one could, and it was frustrating. Actually, only Tomahan and I could see it, and it was up to us to gather more proof. To tell you the truth, he was never the same after what happened. He went crazy, so to say. He went crazy, to say the least, and very soon he was prescribed with pills of a very strong variety that would supposedly keep him in check, but they never helped. He only got worse and worse, and in my mind, the only way to cure him was to make him face his fear, make him face the island, and finally put the nightmare to rest by honoring our friend and by achieving justice for him and for us. The way that I would hype him up was by saying, we got to go there during the daytime when there are people around. We'll be safe then. We'll find that chamber again, and we'll prove to everyone that we are not lying and that we are not crazy, nor that we are junkies. We'll show them that we are right and that they are wrong. We owe it to our friend. We cannot give up now. We need to be strong and we need to be brave, as he was. We owe him that. He was not one bit excited about any of that, and his sanity took a nosedive into the abyss of an imaginary kind, and I had to physically drag him and scream at him to stop being such a weakling, because that is what he was, a weakling, and getting him to the boat was an endeavor in itself, and I regret doing that, even to this day. The ride was indeed smooth. The sea was calm and absent of shark fins. The sun shined brightly. People seemed relaxed around us, for enough time had passed for them to forget what we did or claimed. But he, Tomahan, was already on the edge, and as we were getting closer to the island, he would frantically point out with his index finger And first he would silently talk, and then he would loudly say some very strange things, things that made no sense at all, and it all sounded something like this. Cui cum quenni quanis sibisabus ininis propriumum bumissumum volupata tema tumis vindica vita tumi sum anana temama sitatach. It was all in the stars. He was not of this world. He was of the stars, and they are as powerful as the stars, stars of tyranny. Look, look, there they are. They have come for me. Marya said, calm down. Nobody's coming for you. Where we are going to... Tomahan said, no, no. Can you not see them? They are there. The hoods are there. They are waiting for us at the pier, at the rocks, and even in the sea. Marya said, there are no hoods there. Calm down. We are not in any danger right now. You are making a scene. Stop it. Tomahan said, they are even here. They are swarming me. The hoods are swarming me. Help. Somebody help me. Marya said, nobody is swarming you. Please calm down. Tomahan then said, they are here. They are here. Let go of me. Let go of me. I have done nothing wrong to you. I'm not here to harm you. Please do not harm me. We need to subdue him before he causes harm to himself and to others around him, one of the passengers loudly yelled, as they held him down in a merciless kind of manner. In that whole commotion, a familiar, intricate and sharp curved knife of monstrous serpentine-like features slid between his ribs, piercing his heart, and thus silencing him forever, as I screamed like a banshee, as I realized that I had lost yet another friend. I had failed yet another friend, whom no one could even name, nor even care to name, as he laid there in the pool of his own dark crimson blood. The knife still stood there, protruding out of his body, as the people that once held him down, still bloody and seemingly unbothered, left the boat and proceeded with their daily activities, as if though nothing had happened. It was as if though all of the empathy had abandoned them, and they just cheerfully left the boat and left him there, for in their minds he never existed. In that terrible moment, I understood what happened to my friends. I indeed understood the power which was at play here. I indeed understood that no one could actually see his stabbed body, for the power of the ones responsible caused him to become completely invisible to everyone, but not to me. I was still aware, and I knew that my friends existed. I would never forget them. And that is why I write this down, so that the trace of them would still remain in this world, even after I'm gone. If no one could see them in the picture, maybe they could see them in the written word. I hope, I truly hope. Furthermore, I indeed knew in that moment that I was next, and now it was indeed the decision time. I could either continue and explore the island alone, or retreat and play this game of death better. And indeed I did. I played it better. A lot better. Military training did wonders for me. I caused trouble for them. I disrupted their activities, and I used their own weapon against them. They tasted some of their own medicine, and even now I'm ready for them, even though I stand far away, a whole continent away. I caused them enough trouble, and they indeed hated me for it. They still do, I'm sure. They expressed their hatred on multiple occasions, and I laughed at their anger, just as they had laughed at mine, and thus I exploited their recklessness, and one by one I destroyed them on my own turf, and I even raided their island once again, and demolished their spectral candles, the ones that I could find, at least, and I even took care of the guard. They almost caught me back then. They almost stopped me, but all that shattering and disruption had weakened them, and I did come prepared, with the variety of weapons which I used to cripple them and then finish them off, with their own cursed knife. I do believe that they stood on their last legs back then, but unfortunately I could not reach their temple, for the entrance stood sealed for me, and no matter what I tried, the spiral stairs would not present themselves to me, and, much to my great shock, the gust of unknown dark and evil energy had pushed me off the island. The malevolent sorcerer king of that island must have been very angry, and he indeed had banished me from his cursed kingdom, probably fearing that I might end him as well. I wanted to go back and finish the job, but there was indeed no way for me to return back there anymore. I could not even return back to my hometown, for too many bad memories plagued me there, and the town itself became riddled with inconsistencies and palpable madness, and it even seemed that the town itself was slowly beginning to die, while the dark and evil energy choked the life out of it, probably in retribution to my actions. Not wanting to die along with it, I ran as fast as I could, and I ran far away, and after a long run, I stopped. I took a breather, and I lived. I truly lived, for myself and for my friends, who were robbed of their existence. I destroyed many of the hooded ones, and I'm certain that some of them still remain. I'm sure that they do, because if there were none left, the magic of the island would have been destroyed as well, but the island is still there, and still in the hands of evil. The same evil that I had spooked and got exiled because of it. Moreover, I'm sure that they, even if their number stood small, will try to finish me off someday. I write this so that in case that I fail to protect myself, that someone, anyone, would know that I existed, that my friends existed. Now I ask you, what would you have done in that situation? Would you have proceeded to the island, or would you have retreated as I did, and then wreaked havoc against them as I did? Would you have become so obsessive when it came to revenge? Would you just let it go? Many would have just let it go and just claim that it was not their problem. I'm not one of those people. I'm asking because I can hear the doorknob turning, and I know that my husband is not due to come back home yet. Not just yet. The familiar, intricate, and sharp curved knife of monstrous serpentine-like features is in my hand right now. My trusty pistol stands ready on the table as well, and I stand ready, but still wondering. Was it all worth it? Did I make any difference? Or have I just blackened my soul with my quest for revenge? Was this revenge meant for my friends, or was it meant for me? Do my friends even approve of what I have done? Did I do the wrong thing? Did I fail to explore the possibility that these hooded people, these creatures, might have brought my friend back to life? Was that even within the reach of their powers? I may never know now, and indeed, I ask you all, was it worth it to fight them? Was it worth risking the lives of my loved ones, past and future ones? The door is about to open, and I'm ready. Indeed, I'm ready, for there is no turning back now. The past indeed cannot be altered, and the present might hold regret, but it is only in the days to come, if I survive, that I may find solace and live my life to the absolute fullest, in order to honor my fallen friends, who I love so much, now and indeed, forever. Thank you for listening. I hope you enjoyed. Take care now. Bye bye.